A struggling man and a strange. Offer Daniel was hungry again, the kind of hunger that burned slowly in his stomach. A reminder that the world had already taken more than it had ever given him. The streets were empty, cold winds blowing across broken concrete. Once these roads had been filled with cars and people, now only silence lived there. He pulled his thin jacket tighter, his shoes worn and torn, every step echoing the struggle of a man who had nothing left to lose. For years, Earth had been falling apart, governments collapsing, food supplies running dry. Only the strong or the cruel had survived. And Daniel was neither. He was just a man, tired, weak, wandering through ruins of a city that had forgotten him. That night, he found himself near the edge of the old industrial zone, factories standing like dead giants, their chimneys pointing at a sky full of strange lights. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks, the hunger making him see things that weren't there. But the lights grew brighter, moving, pulsing. He froze, his breath catching in his throat as the ground trembled under his feet. From the darkness above, a massive shadow descended, bigger than any building he had ever seen. It was not a plane. It was not a machine he recognized. It was alive and silent, yet filled with power. The air grew heavy, humming with an energy that made his skin crawl. Daniel wanted to run, but his legs betrayed him. He could only watch as the shadow lowered itself. Metal or flesh, he couldn't tell. But it landed with a force that shook the earth. The silence broke with a hiss of air, and a figure emerged from the side of the ship. Tall, massive, not human. She stood before him, towering like a mountain, her skin shimmering with a strange glow, her eyes sharp and burning like fire trapped in crystal. Daniel's heart pounded, fear and awe fighting inside him. The figure studied him, tilting her head slightly, and then, to his shock, she spoke, her voice deep, resonant, echoing like thunder wrapped in velvet. "I need a husband, and you need strong offspring," the giant alien widow said, her words heavy, impossible, and undeniable. Daniel staggered back, shaking his head. What are you talking about?" he stammered, his voice trembling. She took a slow step forward, her massive form casting a shadow that swallowed him whole. "You are weak," she said, "but your spirit is not broken. My kind needs what you carry, your will, your endurance, your hunger to live." His throat was dry. He wanted to laugh, to scream, but no sound came out. Why him? Of all people. He was nobody, a starving man with nothing. And yet this towering alien spoke as if he mattered. Daniel forced himself to speak. "Why me?" he whispered. The widow's gaze softened, just slightly. "Because you still fight, even when you should have fallen. My people are strong in body, but we are dying in soul. You carry something we lost." Her words twisted in his mind. Impossible to believe, and yet something inside him felt them, understood them. He had survived hunger, despair, and loneliness, not with strength, but with stubbornness. And now, this alien, this widow, saw it as valuable. She extended her hand, massive and powerful, but careful, as if offering a choice. "Come with me, and you will never starve again. You will never be alone. You will have a place, a purpose, a future." Daniel's heart raced. The promise of food, safety, and belonging burned inside him. But so did fear. If he took her hand, what would happen? Was he giving up his freedom, or was he gaining something he had never known? The night around them was silent again, only the wind whispering through the ruins. Daniel looked at her hand, glowing faintly under the strange lights, then at his own trembling fingers, thin and fragile. Could he really do this? Could he bind himself to something so alien, so terrifying, and yet so full of promise? Her voice came again, softer now, but filled with an echo that touched his chest. "Choose, Daniel. Live as prey in a dying world, or stand with me as something greater." The weight of her words pressed down on him. heavy as the ship behind her. His hunger growled inside him. His loneliness screamed. His fear tried to pull him back. But something else stirred. A small spark, the same spark that had kept him alive this long. He slowly reached forward, his hand hovering near hers, trembling, unsure. For the first time in years, Daniel felt he was standing on the edge of something bigger than survival, something dangerous, something forbidden. The alien widow watched him with eyes that burned like stars, waiting. The night seemed to hold its breath, the ruins silent, the world watching. And in that moment, Daniel knew, whatever he chose, his life would never be the same again. The widow's bargain, Daniel's hand hovered in the cold air, his fingers trembling as the giant widow's shadow wrapped around him. The ruins around them felt smaller, the silence heavier, as if the world itself waited for his choice. Finally, he lowered his arm, pulling his hand back, fear overwhelming his hunger. "I can't," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I don't even know who you are." The alien widow tilted her head, her glowing eyes never leaving his face, her massive frame unmoving like a statue of living stone. "I am the last wife of a fallen warrior clan," she said, her voice carrying grief and command together. "I am widow because our males are gone, lost to endless wars. I am alone, and my people stand on the edge of extinction." Daniel swallowed hard, the words hitting him with strange weight. "So why me?" he asked again, weaker this time. The widow stepped closer, the ground humming faintly under her presence. "Because you carry what my kind has lost," she said, her voice quieter now. "We are strong in flesh, but hollow in will. You are weak in body, but strong in spirit. Your fight to live when you have nothing makes you rare. It makes you valuable." Daniel shook his head, a bitter laugh escaping him. "I'm nothing. I sleep in broken buildings. I steal scraps. I'm not valuable to anyone." Her gaze softened, and for the first time, he thought he saw not a monster, but a woman burdened by sorrow. "You are wrong," she said. "You are the seed of survival, and survival is more precious than strength." She raised her massive hand again, slowly, carefully, as though offering not command, but choice. "If you accept me, you will have food, safety, and a place among my people," she promised. "You will no longer crawl through ruins like a dying rat. You will stand as husband to me, and father to children who may save two races." Daniel's chest tightened, the hunger inside him fighting with the fear. Her words burned with temptation, but also with danger. He looked at her enormous hand, glowing faintly under the strange lights of her ship, then back at her eyes, which held both power and loneliness. "I don't even know your name," he said at last. The widow lowered her gaze, and for a moment, the steel in her voice faded. "My name is Zira," she said, the word echoing like a song from another world. "And though I am feared among my people, I am also alone." Something shifted inside Daniel. He had expected only command from her, only force, but instead, he saw pain, longing, and truth. The thought made him feel less like prey, and more like a man standing at a crossroad. "What if I refuse?" he asked, his voice steadier now. Zara did not flinch. "Then you may walk away, and starve as you have, and when your bones rest in the dirt, no one will remember you, not even the wind." Her words cut sharp, not as a threat, but as truth. Daniel's knees weakened, his hunger roaring in protest. At the thought of returning to the ruins, he imagined another night of cold floors, another day of searching trash, another week of waiting for death. Then he imagined food, warmth, and a future. Strange, terrifying, but real. Still, he hesitated. "Why call me husband?" he asked. "Why not just say, experiment or tool or subject?" The widow's eyes burned brighter, and for a moment, her towering frame seemed to tremble with restrained emotion. "Because I do not want a subject," she said firmly. "I want a partner. I want someone who chooses me. Not someone I command, I could take by force. But force breeds only emptiness. Choice creates bond. Bond creates future. Her words struck him deeper than he expected. They were not the words of a conqueror, but of someone who carried unbearable weight. The silence stretched, filled only by the distant hum of her ship and the low whistle of the night wind. Daniel felt his chest ache with fear and longing all at once. He looked at her hand again, massive but waiting, offering, not forcing. If he took it, everything would change. If he refused, he knew the ruins would swallow him soon. His lips trembled, and finally he whispered, "And if I say yes, what happens to me?" Her answer came like thunder, hidden in velvet. "Then you will belong to me, and I will belong to you, and together, we will rebuild what both our worlds have lost." The words sank into him, heavy, dangerous, impossible to ignore. He stood there trembling, caught between death and destiny, and in the frozen silence of the night, the widow's bargain hung like a blade over his future. The first test, Daniel's stomach growled again, sharp and painful, reminding him how fragile his body was. Zira stood tall in front of him, her glowing eyes steady, her hands still open, waiting. But before he could decide, she turned slightly, as if listening to something far away, her face hardening. "You want to live," she said, her voice deeper. "Then you must prove it." Daniel frowned, confused. "Prove it how?" Zira's massive frame shifted, and she gestured toward the ruins around them. "There is danger here," she said. "Shadows that feed on weakness. Show me you can face them, and I will know your spirit is not a lie." Daniel's heart thumped hard. He looked around nervously, the streets empty, the wind cold. "Danger," he muttered. "There's nothing here." Sarah's eyes glowed brighter. "Wait," she whispered. At first, Daniel heard only silence. Then slowly he caught it, a low growl. Crawling out of the dark alleyways like smoke, the sound twisted his gut. Primal and wrong. From the shadows, creatures emerged, their bodies thin and broken, skin grey, eyes glowing faintly like dying embers. They were once human, long ago, but now something else. Scavengers born of hunger and rot. Daniel stumbled back, panic rising in his chest. No, I can't fight them." Zira's voice cracked the night like a whip. "You can." Her massive hand stayed at her side. She made no move to help, only to watch. "This is your first test, Daniel. Fight or fall." The creatures hissed, their limbs jerking like broken machines, sharp teeth flashing. Daniel's legs screamed to run, but he knew if he turned his back, they would tear him apart. His eyes darted around the rubble, searching desperately for anything. He spotted a rusted metal pipe, half buried under the dirt, and grabbed it, his hands shaking. The first creature lunged. Daniel swung wildly, the pipe slamming into its skull with a dull crack. The thing shrieked, staggering back, black fluid dripping from the wound. Another leapt from the side, claws slashing. Daniel ducked, rolling across the dirt, his ribs aching, his breath short. Zira's voice carried over the chaos, calm and steady. "Do not fight with fear. Fight with hunger. Fight as if your life belongs to more than yourself." Her words stabbed into him, and for a moment, Daniel felt his panic shift into something harder, sharper. He gripped the pipe tighter, swinging again, smashing into the second creature's chest. Bones cracked. The monster collapsed, writhing, but more kept coming. 3, 4, their eyes glowing, their movements twisted and fast. Daniel's arms burned, his body weak, but his spirit screamed every strike, every dodge. He poured his desperation into. The pipe bent under the force of his blows, his knuckles bleeding, his lungs on fire. Finally, the last creature lunged, teeth snapping inches from his face. Daniel roared, a sound he did not know he could make, and drove the pipe straight through its throat. The monster gurgled, twitched, and collapsed, silence returning like a wave. Daniel fell to his knees, gasping, sweat and blood dripping from his face. The broken pipe slipped from his hands, clattering onto the concrete. He wanted to collapse, to sleep forever. But Zira's shadow loomed over him, her eyes blazing. "You see now," she said, her voice filled with power. "You are not weak. You only believed you were. But inside, you burns the will that my people have lost." Daniel coughed, barely able to speak. I almost died." Zira knelt down, her massive form lowering so her face came closer, her glowing eyes softening. "And yet, you live," she said gently. "That is the difference. Daniel, you fight, you refuse to fall, and that makes you more than prey." For a moment, her hand hovered near him, not as command, but as something almost tender. "Do you understand the bargain now?" she asked. Daniel met her gaze, his chest heaving, his body broken, but his heart burning with something new. He nodded slowly. "You want strength, not of body, but of spirit." Zira's lips curved slightly, almost like a smile. "Yes," she said, "and you have just shown it." The silence stretched again, the night wind brushing over them, carrying the scent of ash and old stone. Daniel wiped the blood from his mouth, still shaking, still weak, but inside, he felt a flicker of pride, small but real. Zira stood tall again, her towering figure rising like a mountain. "Now," she said, her voice deep and commanding once more, "you are ready to hear the rest of my bargain." Her words rolled over him like thunder, heavy and impossible to ignore. Daniel looked at her massive hand once again, the same hand that could crush him or save him. This time, he did not see only fear. He saw choice, and choice meant power. The test was over, but the true bargain had only just begun. The journey begins. The ruins lay silent again, broken bodies of the shadow creatures scattered across the ground. Daniel leaned against a cracked wall, his chest rising and falling fast, his arms trembling, the bent pipe still lying near his feet. He had survived, but his body screamed with pain. His spirit burned with something new, something dangerous. Zira watched him closely, her towering frame still, her glowing eyes sharp. She had seen enough. He was no longer just a starving man. He had proven he could fight, even when every part of him wanted to fall. Her voice broke the silence, deep and steady. "You have passed the first test, Daniel. Now comes the journey." Daniel lifted his head, exhaustion in his eyes. "Journey? Where?" Zira stepped aside, and for the first time, Daniel saw her ship clearly. It rose into the night sky like a mountain of living metal, its surface pulsing with faint blue veins of light. Its shape curved and alien, not built by human hands. It hummed with energy that made the air vibrate, a sound both beautiful and frightening. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. That's yours." Zira nodded slowly. "It is my vessel, my home, and soon, it will be yours too." Daniel's legs shook as he stared at it, fear and wonder colliding inside him. He had dreamed of escape, of leaving the ruins behind, but never like this. Zira extended her massive hand again, patient, offering, not forcing. "Step with me, Daniel. Leave this broken world behind, and see the truth of mine," she said, her voice carrying both command and invitation. Daniel's heart pounded. He looked back at the ruins, the cracked buildings, the empty streets, the cold hunger waiting to devour him again. He had nothing left here, nothing but pain and silence. He looked at her hand, glowing softly, massive yet careful, and for the first time, he felt less like prey and more like a man standing at the edge of destiny. With trembling fingers, he placed his hand into hers. Her grip was warm, surprisingly gentle, yet filled with power. She lifted him with ease, as if his weight was nothing, and led him toward the ship. The ramp opened with a hiss, glowing lights spilling out, bathing the ruins in blue. Daniel stepped inside, his breath stolen by the sight before him. The the walls curved like the inside of a living creature, glowing veins running along the metal skin, the air thick with energy that hummed in his bones. It felt alive, as if the ship itself was watching him. Zyra's deep voice echoed. This vessel carries more than metal. It carries memory. It carries the last hope of my clan. Daniel reached out. Touching the wall, it pulsed faintly under his hand. Like the slow beat of a giant heart, he pulled back quickly, his eyes wide. It's alive, he whispered. Zyra nodded. Yes, it is a living machine, bound to me. It answers only to those it accepts. They walked deeper into the ship, Daniel's weak legs struggling to keep up, yet his eyes wide with awe. Rooms opened around them, chambers glowing with strange crystal light, strange symbols etched into the walls, alien but beautiful. For the first time in years, Daniel felt warmth on his skin, not the biting cold of broken cities, but true warmth, alive and steady, his hunger still twisted inside him. But now there was food nearby. He could smell it, sweet, rich, unlike anything he had known. His stomach growled, loud and desperate. Zyra looked at him, her glowing eyes softer, almost amused. You are starving, she said. Come. She led him into a chamber where a table stood, not wood, not stone, but shaped from the living ship itself. Plates of glowing fruit and steaming meat rested there, food strange and alien, yet smelling better than anything he had ever known. Daniel stared, disbelief in his eyes. Is this real? Zyra sat, her massive frame folding with elegance. Eat, Daniel. Your body must be strong if you are to walk the path ahead. He did not wait. He grabbed the food, biting into fruit that burst with sweet liquid, meat that melted in his mouth. Tears stung his eyes as he swallowed, the taste overwhelming, his body shaking as life returned to him with every bite. For years he had starved. For years he had lived like a ghost. And now he was alive again. Zyra watched in silence, not with judgment, but with something like satisfaction. When Daniel finally slowed, his hands stained with juice, his chest heavy with relief, he whispered, Thank you. Her glowing eyes met his, steady and deep. Do not thank me yet, she said. This is only the beginning. Daniel leaned back, exhaustion and fullness mixing, his mind spinning. He was inside an alien ship, eating food not from Earth, sitting across from a widow who called him husband. It felt impossible, yet it was real. Zyra leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping lower, carrying a weight that made his skin tingle. The journey is not just across stars, Daniel. It is across yourself. I will test not only your strength, but your heart, your will, your loyalty. Daniel swallowed, fear crawling back into him. And if I fail? Her gaze sharpened, her voice like thunder. Then you will not belong to me, and the void will take you. The words echoed in his chest, heavy and final. Daniel sat there, torn between fear and longing. The journey had begun, but he knew deep inside, the hardest parts were yet to come. Secrets of the widow. The ship drifted through the night sky, silent and alive, carrying Daniel farther from the ruins of his broken world. He sat quietly in the chamber, his stomach full for the first time in years, his body still aching but stronger than before. Zyra stood near the wall, her tall frame glowing faintly in the living light of the vessel, her eyes fixed on him, watching, measuring. Daniel felt her gaze and looked away, his thoughts heavy. He had stepped into something beyond his understanding, a bargain that promised life, yet wrapped in danger he could not see. His voice broke the silence. Why me, Zyra? Really, why not take someone stronger, someone better than me? The widow moved closer, her massive steps soft, her shadow stretching over him. There is truth you do not yet know, she said, her voice steady. And you must hear it, even if it frightens you. Daniel's chest tightened, his eyes locking on hers. What truth? Zyra's gaze burned brighter, but her tone was softer now, almost sorrowful. My people are not what they were. We were born to be warriors, conquerors. We built empires across stars. But war consumed us, burned us, and left only ashes. Our males are gone. Our wombs are failing, and the fire of our kind flickers low. Daniel's hands clenched. Her words felt heavy. And you think I can fix that? He asked quietly. Zira lowered herself to her knees, bringing her massive face closer to his level, her presence overwhelming yet careful. You can give what we cannot, she whispered. The strength to endure, the will to rise again. Children born of you will carry both our blood and our spirit. They may be the bridge that saves my people. Daniel's heart pounded. The idea felt unreal, terrifying, but also powerful. And what about you? He asked, his voice trembling. Why do you call me husband, not just a tool? For the first time, Zira's eyes dimmed with pain, her voice heavy with something deeper than command. Because I am not only widow of my people, I am widow in my soul. My mate is gone, my clan is gone, and I do not seek a servant. I seek bond, someone who chooses me when the stars grow cold. Daniel froze, the words wrapping around him. He had expected a bargain of survival, but not this. Not a plea hidden beneath her power. Her towering frame seemed smaller in that moment. Not weak, but human in ways he did not expect. Silence hung heavy between them, the ship humming softly like a heartbeat in the walls. Daniel whispered, I don't know if I can be that. Zira tilted her head, her glowing eyes studying him deeply. You already are, Daniel. You fought when your body was broken. You stepped into this ship when you could have run. You carry a fire that even my warriors did not. Her hand lowered, massive fingers resting on the floor near him. Not grabbing, only resting. I will not lie to you, she said firmly. This path is dangerous. There are enemies who will hunt us. There are trials that will break you if you are not ready. But if you stand with me, you will no longer walk alone. Daniel swallowed hard, his chest aching with fear and longing. He remembered the ruins, the hunger, the loneliness, the silence of nights when no one knew he existed. And here was Zira, powerful, terrifying, but offering something more than survival. Still, his doubts whispered, and if I fail? Her glowing eyes sharpened, her voice a deep echo. Then I lose everything, and so do you. But I do not believe you will fail. The words burned into him, filling him with both fear and strange pride. Daniel looked at her, truly looked, beyond her size, beyond her alien form, and saw not only a giant widow, but a soul carrying grief, hope, and a longing she could not hide. He whispered, You're not just saving your people, are you? You're saving yourself too. For a heartbeat. Zira said nothing. Then her lips curved faintly, almost like a smile. Yes, Daniel, and maybe saving you as well. The air between them grew heavy, charged, not with fear, but with something unspoken, something neither dared name. The ship hummed around them, the walls glowing softly as if listening. Zira rose again, her towering frame regaining its command, her voice deep. Rest now, Daniel. Tomorrow you will see more than ruins and hunger. Tomorrow you will see my world, and the truth it carries. Daniel leaned back against the strange walls, his body weary, but his mind alive with questions. He had stepped into a bond he did not understand, a path filled with danger and secrets. Yet for the first time, he felt not only alive, but chosen. As his eyes grew heavy, the last thing he saw was Zira standing tall in the glowing chamber, her silhouette framed by alien light, a widow who carried both sorrow and promise. And somewhere deep inside, Daniel knew her secrets were only beginning to unfold. Trials of trust. The ship carried Daniel far beyond the broken earth, its glowing walls humming softly, the stars spreading wide outside like rivers of light. For Daniel, it felt unreal. Only hours ago, he had been starving among ruins, and now he sat inside a living vessel, beside a giant widow who called him husband. He touched the wall gently, the faint pulse answering his hand, and a thought pressed into his chest. He no longer belonged to the dirt of earth, but to something greater. Sira entered the chamber, her towering frame filling the space, her eyes glowing brighter than before. "Rest is over," she said, her voice echoing low. "Now comes the trial of trust." Daniel frowned, uneasy. "Another test? I just fought for my life." Her gaze did not soften. "Survival proves spirit, but bond requires trust. If you cannot trust me, and I cannot trust you, our bargain will collapse." The words struck him harder than he expected. Trust was not something Daniel had known in years. The world had only taught him betrayal, hunger, and loss. He crossed his arms, wary. "And how do I prove trust to you?" Izira lowered her hand slowly, the same hand that had offered him choice before, massive and strong. "By giving yourself into my grasp," she said. "I could crush you with this hand, yet if you place yourself in it, you show faith, not fear." Daniel froze, his throat dry, the memory of her strength flashing in his mind. One squeeze could end him, one mistake, and he would be nothing but broken flesh. "Why would I risk that?" he asked, his voice trembling. Her eyes burned steady. "Because trust is always risk. Daniel, without it, there is no bond, no future." The silence pressed hard, the hum of the ship louder now. Daniel looked at her hand, wide as his chest, glowing faintly with the light of her vessel. His body screamed to refuse, to run, but deep inside, another voice whispered, if he could not trust her, he had nothing. Slowly he stepped forward, his legs weak, his hands shaking. Sira did not move, only waited, her massive hand open, patient. Daniel climbed onto her palm, his small frame swallowed by her grip, his heart pounding like thunder in his chest. The hand rose, higher and higher, holding him like fragile glass. Daniel closed his eyes, sweat dripping down his face, waiting for pain, waiting for the end. But no pain came, no crushing, only warmth, steady and alive. Surrounding him, her voice came, deep but softer than he had ever heard. "You are safe in my hand, Daniel. Do you feel it?" He opened his eyes, looking up at her massive face, her glowing eyes watching him, not as prey, but as something fragile and precious. He swallowed, his voice breaking. "Yes, I feel it." Zira lowered him gently back to the floor, her movements careful. "You have given me your trust," she said, "and I give you mine. No harm will come to you while you walk beside me." Daniel stood shaking, but inside, something shifted. A wall he had carried for years cracked. He had trusted no one, yet here he was, placing his life in the hands of a giant widow, and she had kept him safe for the first time. He believed her words were not chains, but a promise. But the trial was not over. Zira turned, her gaze sharper now. "Now I must trust you, Daniel. The test must go both ways." He blinked, confused. "Me? How?" Her towering form leaned closer, her voice dropping low. "There are chambers in this ship, chambers only a bonded one may enter. Inside them are memories of my people, secrets even I fear to share. I will open one to you, and I will not follow if you betray me, if you touch what is forbidden. I will know." Daniel's chest tightened. The idea of being trusted by her, with something so precious, filled him with both pride and dread. "Why risk this?" he asked. "Why give me a chance to betray you?" Zira's eyes glowed steady. "Because bond without equal trust is nothing but chains, and I do not seek chains. Daniel, I seek choice." She pressed her massive hand against the wall, symbols, glowing and shifting until a doorway opened, its light spilling into the chamber. Inside was a room filled with crystal pillars, glowing with faint energy, whispers echoing softly like voices from long ago. Zira stepped aside, her shadow falling away. "Enter Daniel, and show me what you are." He stared at the doorway, fear biting his chest, the whispers pulling at his ears. He wanted to run, but her words lingered. Equal trust, equal bond. Daniel stepped forward slowly, his feet carrying him into the chamber of secrets, the light wrapping around him. The door closed behind, leaving him alone, surrounded by the memories of an alien race. The whispers grew louder, strange and sorrowful, pulling him deeper. Daniel's heart pounded, every step a test, every breath a choice. And in that silence, he knew the trial of trust had only just begun. Shadows of betrayal. The chamber was alive with whispers, the air thick with light that pulsed like veins under glass. Daniel walked slowly between the crystal pillars, each one glowing with shapes, faces, and shadows of another world. The voices were not clear words, but feelings, sorrow, anger, love, and fear, carried on a current of sound that wrapped around him. He stopped at one pillar, his hand trembling as he reached out. The glow shifted, showing warriors tall and armored, battles fought under alien skies, and a woman who looked like Syrah, but younger, standing beside a figure larger than her, a male with blazing eyes. Daniel's chest tightened. He realized he was seeing her past, her mate, her loss, the heart of her widowhood. The voices pressed harder, whispers growing sharper, tempting, calling. "Take more," they seemed to say. "Learn everything. Claim what she hides." Daniel's breath grew heavy, sweat on his brow. Part of him wanted to turn away, but part of him ached to know, to peel back every secret. He clenched his fists, his voice breaking. "No, this is her pain, not mine to steal." The crystals dimmed slightly, the whispers softening, as if acknowledging his choice. Behind him, the chamber door slid open with a hiss. Syrah's towering form filled the entrance, her glowing eyes burning as she studied him. "You resisted," she said, her voice low. "Many would not." Daniel turned, his face pale. "I almost didn't, Syrah. I wanted to see everything." Her gaze softened, though her voice carried weight. "That is the shadow of betrayal. Temptation always waits in silence, but you chose respect, and that choice builds bond." Daniel swallowed, his chest heavy. "What would have happened if I had touched more?" Syrah stepped closer, the crystals glowing brighter around her. "Then you would have lost me, Daniel, and no bargain could stand. Trust broken once is broken forever." The words stung, not as threat, but as truth. Daniel lowered his head, realizing the test had been heavier than he thought. Not a test of strength, but of restraint. He whispered, "I don't want to lose this, even if I don't fully understand it yet." Syrah's massive hand lowered near him, her fingers curling slightly, not to command, but to comfort. "You will not lose it," she said. "Unless you choose betrayal, you are proving yourself, step by step." But before Daniel could reply, the ship shook violently, the walls trembling, the crystals flickering. A deep roar echoed through the vessel, not from Syrah, not from Daniel, but from outside. Her eyes snapped wide, her voice sharp. "They have found us." Daniel stumbled, gripping a pillar for balance. "Who? What's happening?" Syrah rose to her full height, her glowing form burning like fire. "Hunters, enemies of my clan. They follow my blood, they smell my grief, and they come to finish what war began." The ship shook again, metal groaning like a living creature in pain. Daniel's chest tightened with fear. "Can we fight them?" Her voice thundered. "We will fight, but you must stand with me, Daniel. Betrayal now would mean death for us both." The crystals around them shattered suddenly, light spilling like liquid across the floor. Daniel covered his face, the force knocking him down. When he looked up, he saw Syrah standing tall, her hand stretched as if shielding him from the blast, her body glowing fiercely. She turned her head toward him, her voice steady even in chaos. "Now comes your true choice, not between hunger and survival, but between loyalty and fear. Will you run from me, or will you stand? Daniel's throat burned. He remembered her words. Trust is always risk. His hand shook, but his voice rose, louder than he thought possible. I'll stand, Zira. I won't run. For a moment, her eyes softened, and a flicker of something deeper than gratitude passed over her face. Then you are truly mine, she said, her voice carrying a mix of pride and sorrow. The ship roared again, alarms echoing through the living walls. Zira reached down, her massive hand curling around him, not to test, but to protect. Hold tight, Daniel, she said, for the shadows of betrayal are near, and we must face them together. As the vessel shook under enemy fire, Daniel pressed himself against her hand, fear clawing at his heart, yet a spark of resolve burning brighter. The trial of trust had ended, but the shadow of betrayal had only just begun.